A Chinese acrobat fell to her death after losing her grip in a mid-air act. The acrobat was rushed to the hospital but eventually died. More details on this later in the news. Good evening, I am Nina Richie Alago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Now for the headlines. Philippines and United States strengthen economic and defense cooperation. Filipinos in Sudan request immediate evacuation. Yemen stampede claims dozens of lives. White House announces new artillery ammunition for Ukraine. And K-pop star Moonbin passes away at the age of 25. The Philippines and United States House of Representatives to join forces to strengthen the economic and defense cooperation between the two countries. Philippine House Speaker Martin Romualdez declares a successful meeting with U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy at the Capitol Office in Washington, D.C. Romualdez came to an agreement with McCarthy by means of legislative measures to further stabilize the relationship. According to Romualdez, the defense relations between the Philippines and U.S. remain strong under the 1951 Mutual Defense Treaty, which serves to maintain the stability of regional peace in the Asia-Pacific. The Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, denies the Senate's request to summon the International Criminal Court, or the ICC. DFA states that it would not follow the Senate's summons as the president has cut ties with the ICC. The Senate fails to invite the prosecutors of the ICC to clarify the hearing on the defense resolutions of former President Rodrigo Duterte's war on drugs. Senator Francis Tolentino says the DFA refused to act as liaisons per the president's instructions. Tolentino expresses regret as this was also an opportunity to collaborate with the ICC about the ongoing investigations regarding the war on drugs. 87 Filipinos are requesting for aid as the conflict in Sudan continues. The Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, Undersecretary for Migrant Affairs Eduardo Jose de Vega, states that the Philippine ambassador to Egypt, Ezedin Tago, is managing the situation. The Undersecretary estimates around 400 Filipinos currently residing in Sudan. De Vega stresses that travel time from Khartoum to Egypt would take 9 hours. Filipinos are advised to stay in their homes while finding ways to make ends meet. Affected Filipinos can contact the embassy through their Facebook at FinEgypt or on WhatsApp at +20 122 7436 472. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. wants the public to feel the inclusive growth of the Philippines. After approving the executive order regarding the administration's Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or RCEP, and Social Protection Floor, or SPF, in a meeting with the National Economic and Development Authority, or NEDA, the president tasked government agencies to execute a nationwide educational campaign on how the country can benefit from the Free Trade Agreement, or FTA. Department of Trade and Industry Secretary Alfredo Pascual says the RCEP agreement is a modern, comprehensive, and useful stipulation to offer opportunity for market access in commerce, services, and investments. RCEP is an FTA between the 10 states of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, and its 5 partners, including Australia, China, Japan, New Zealand, and South Korea. The Secretary adds the executive order will take effect on June 2, 2023, after the 60-day period of the instrument of ratification by the Bureau of Customs.
Once issued, the EO shall be the basis of the Bureau of Customs for the issuance of customs administrative order, which shall be distributed to to all ports to allow for the implementation of the preferential tariffs on imports from RCEP member countries. The issuance of the EO to implement the Philippine schedule of tariff commitments pursuant to a provision in Republic Act that created the Customs Modern Tariff Act, or CMTA. This section provides that the President shall, upon recommendation of the NEDA Board, modify import duties, including any necessary change in classification and other import restrictions as required or appropriate to carry out and promote foreign trade with other countries.
In support of the Wage Recovery Act of 2023, a group of workers call on the government to approve the 150 peso wage increase for private sector employees. Trade Union Congress of the Philippines, or TUCP party list representative and House Deputy Speaker Raymond Mendoza requests a 150 peso increase in the daily wage of private sector workers nationwide. This follows the filing of House Bill number 7871, or the Wage Recovery Act of 2023, that aims to implement the 150 peso daily wage increase of private sector employees. In a statement, Representative Mendoza says they have taken actions to strengthen the existence of a salary hike for the private sector since 2022. However, the economic managers rejected the option, which in fact is a survival crisis for workers, which leads the TUCP to submit the request. Legislators emphasize the critical need to enact a wage increase for private sector workers in the midst of rising food prices and bills. Austria will offer thousands of vacancies for Filipino skilled workers, primarily for nurses. Department of Migrant Workers, or DMW, considers Austria as another promising labor market for overseas Filipino workers, or OFWs. Professor Gunther Weisinger told Migrant Workers Secretary Susan Ople that Austria needs 60,000 to 75,000 healthcare professionals in the coming years. Aside from that, Austria will need 200,000 job openings across all industries. DMW Secretary Susan Ople assures that the country has enough nurses and other healthcare workers to serve the local population. Ople says the Philippines and Austria need an agreement about the partnership that will also secure the safety of each OFW in Austria's territory. The Private Hospitals Association of the Philippines, or PHAPI, says the utilization of private hospitals in the country remains manageable. This is despite the increasing number of new COVID-19 infections. PHAPI says only a few COVID-19 patients are currently getting admitted to hospitals. Most of the patients are those with comorbidities. DOH officer in charge, Maria Rosario Vergeire, also acknowledged that new COVID-19 cases are rising again. October records show the nationwide positivity rate rose to 8.5% on Wednesday. Currently, the Philippines has an active caseload of 8,252. The government has allotted almost 2 billion pesos for the electrification of 1,140 places within the country under the National Electrification Administration, or NEA. According to the Department of Budget and Management, or DBM, 1.89 billion pesos will be put in the NEA for the year. DBM Secretary Amena Pangandaman says that the project also aims to increase the quality of life for those who live in barangays and sites without electricity supply. To determine the areas, the Philippine Statistics Authority, or PSA, will partner with the NEA. Coming up, in Yemen, a stampede claims 85 lives and injures hundreds of people. NASA denies Ukrainian officials' claim over a powerful flash above Kyiv skies. And Pentagon's leaked document suggests China's supersonic UAV is operational. Stay tuned for more stories around the globe when Mata ng Agila International returns. Welcome back to Mata ng Agila International. Tragedy strikes as overcrowding causes a stampede during a charity event in Yemen. At least 85 people were killed and more than 300 were injured, with 50 in critical condition in the Bab al-Yemen district of the capital. Thousands of people in the poverty-hit country gathered at a school in the capital of Sana'a to receive cash handouts of 5,000 Yemeni rials, or about 1,000 pesos. People were packed in a narrow street leading to the school's back entrance. Once the gates opened, the crowd streamed into a staircase leading to the courtyard where the distribution was taking place. Eyewitnesses said that gunfire caused people to rush in a panic. The Houthi political chief Mahdi al-Mashat said a committee has been formed to investigate. Chad's Defense Minister General Dawood Yahya Ibrahim says around 320 Sudanese soldiers have fled the fighting raging in their country. The defense minister says the soldiers arrived in Chad's territory. They were disarmed and detained on Sunday. General Ibrahim says the troops feared being killed by the paramilitary rapid support forces. The minister says the situation in Sudan is worrying and deplorable. He says that they have taken all the necessary measures in the face of this crisis. Ibrahim adds they are ensuring that the refugees are well housed. Chad had closed its border crossings with Sudan last April 15. The border stretches for more than 1,000 kilometers across, frequently used by troops from both countries. It is the fifth day of fighting between the two forces vying for power in Khartoum. The conflict has already killed more than 300 civilians. The Taang National Liberation Army, or TNLA, is one of the ethnic rebel groups along the Myanmar-China border that have fought the Myanmar military for decades. The conflict is over autonomy and control of lucrative resources. Since the coup in Myanmar 2 years ago, ethnic rebel groups have taken center stage in the nationwide battle for democracy. They have been clashing with junta troops and training anti-coup People's Defense Force groups from the Bamar majority. TNLA Brigadier General Tarbon Chia says they have received sympathy, understanding and support from other people in Myanmar after the coup. He says people now understand the fight. Chiao added that many educated young Tang people joined the TNLA. They now serve their duties for the revolution. He says this is the profit from the coup. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov warned South Korea over sending weapons to Ukraine. Peskov says if Seoul decides to do so, then South Korea would be indirectly involved in their conflict. President Yoon Suk-yeol has repeatedly denounced Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Though Seoul supplies economic and humanitarian aid to Kyiv, it still contemplates on arming Ukraine. However, Yoon said he will send weapons to Kyiv in the event of a new attack against Ukrainian civilians. Ukraine has asked oil giant Shell to donate the proceeds from the sale of its Russian assets to Ukraine. Oleg Ustenko, an economic advisor to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, sent a letter to Shell CEO Wael Sawan to donate the proceeds from a supposedly upcoming sale of its stake in a Siberian oil and gas project to Kyiv's coffers. Ustenko said that reparations of more than $1 billion should be donated to the victims of the war. Shell pulled out of the Russian market after Moscow launched its military operation in Ukraine last February, announcing that it would write off up to $5 billion of its assets in the country. According to Russian media reports, Shell's stake will be bought out by Russian energy company Novatek for around $1.1 billion, although it is unclear whether the proceeds from this buyout will end up in the British oil firm's hands. A Shell spokesperson said that they are not involved in any negotiations inside Russia and has no idea where the money from the sale will end up. The company did not also say whether it would honor Ustenko's request if possible. The White House has announced a new artillery ammunition package for Ukraine.
Biden-Harris administration will announce a new security assistance package for Ukraine as part of our ongoing efforts to help Ukraine defend itself against Russia's brutal invasion. The announcement, which will come from the Department of State and Defense, will be the 36th use of presidential drawdown authorities to support Ukraine.
Jean-Pierre says the new package includes ammunition for HIMARS rocket systems, anti-armor, and artillery rounds. War analysts say Ukraine wants to drive the Russians back from its occupied territory in the east and south of the country. The United States National Aeronautics and Space Administration, or NASA, denies the claim of Ukrainian officials over a powerful flash seen in Kyiv skies. Ukraine suspected the burst of light came from NASA's satellite falling to Earth, but the U.S. Space Agency reports that its satellite is still in orbit. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian Air Force suggests the flash might have come from a meteorite. Officials are facing a slew of questions as to why a junior rank had access to classified data. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin finally comments on the issue, saying the alleged leaker was a systems administrator. Austin also reveals the suspect, Jack Teixeira, worked in an intelligence unit.
For context, I would tell you that this young man was a systems administrator. So he was a computer specialist that worked in an intelligence unit. And so their business was intelligence, and he, part of his responsibility was maintaining the network that they operate on. So again, that's just some context, and I won't say any more. I'll just let the investigation play out as it should.
Austin believes the issue is not over a junior rank having access to classified data. Rather, he says the real issue is how one should responsibly protect the information. Sources claim Teixeira brought home top secret reports and shared them with his group chat. From there, hundreds of sensitive photographs spread throughout the internet. The classified U.S. intelligence files also contain Ukraine's military capabilities. Analysts say these leaked documents are the most serious security breach since WikiLeaks in 2010. A leaked Pentagon document suggests that China's WZ-8 supersonic UAV is in service. The document indicates that the People's Liberation Army, or PLA, has established a supersonic unmanned aerial vehicle, or UAV squadron, using the delta-shaped WZ-8. Documents indicate that the WZ-8 is carried aloft by a Xi'an H-6M bomber, which deploys it well outside the region to be surveyed and then returns to base. The UAV clocks in at a top speed of Mach 3 and an operational altitude of about 100,000 feet. It is estimated to be about 3 times as fast as its predecessor, the WZ-7. Jet-propelled reconnaissance drones are usually deployed for surveillance operations and strategic aerial reconnaissance across Southeast Asia. This model made its premiere during a 2019 military parade in Beijing, and a prototype then debuted at the 2021 China Air Show. Several other documents depict hypothetical missions involving the surveillance drone flying over South Korea and Taiwan. In both missions, the H-6M bomber reportedly takes off from Liuwan Air Base in Anhui Province. A U.S. judge ordered former Peruvian President Alejandro Toledo to surrender this week. The 77-year-old former president faces charges of bribery. Reports allege that Toledo took millions of dollars in exchange for favored treatment in bidding on public works. Toledo denies all the charges. He could face a 20-year sentence if convicted. U.S. President Joe Biden's public approval rating fell to 39% this month. Experts say the new figure nears the lowest level of Biden's presidency. Biden's popularity sank almost steadily since he took office in January 2021. His approval rating dipped to 36% in mid-2022. Poll sites say since then, his ratings remained near that level. Biden earlier announced his intention to run for re-election in 2024. There are no reports on when he plans to formally launch his campaign. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. announces his bid to challenge President Joe Biden for the 2024 Democratic presidential nomination. He is the son of former U.S. Senator Robert F. Kennedy and the nephew of former President John F. Kennedy. His campaign aims to be the platform of claims that childhood immunizations pose health risks, though Kennedy did not discuss vaccines or criticize their effectiveness during a rally in Boston. If elected president, he promises to prioritize research on chronic ailments and vows to fight corporate feudalism. Previously, Kennedy faced criticism from fellow Democrats for his advocacy against the COVID-19 vaccination. Major figures of his political family were absent from his campaign launch. Up next, in Canada, public service workers go on strike. Teen brothers face charges over Alabama party killings. And the United Kingdom inflation rate is still in double digits. Don't go away. We have more stories from around the globe when Mata ng Agila International returns.
Sa mahal ng bilihin, talagang mapapaisip tayo kung paano makakatipid. Bukod sa mga gastusin sa bahay, isa ring inaalala ang pagtitipid sa konsumo ng gasolina para sa ating mga sasakyan. In other countries, there are fuel-saving products that made a buzz with its marketing claims of additional mileage per gallon. Let us find out more about these products in today's episode with Govi Philippines, the distributor of Go Fuel tablets.
The technology behind our product actually won the Nobel Prize for Chemistry in 1973.
Nagiging fuel efficient yung sasakyan at nakakatulong po tayo sa preservation ng ating environment.
Open for business with Cesar Vallejos, Sunday, 9 p.m.
Magandang araw, 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 magandang araw. Any time of the day, it's super saya, lalo na kung si Ara lagi mong kasama. Magandang araw, magandang araw.
Ito na yung papatayin mo sa namin. Ate, yung sing-sing nyo, kumakanta ba yan? Ayun o. Kahit summer ka lang, may puto mo itlog na maalat. May ano kaya ito ate? Asukal.
Anong liquid o likido ang pwedeng ipambayad?
Kaya pwede patulong. Yung bola po.
Ate, pwede pa, no? Hawak lang. Sisintas lang ako. Ay, ate, nawala yata yung gagaba. Ate, yung gagaba.
Hi mga Connect 25! Ako po si Isabel de los Santos ng Quezon City. Magkano po magpakarga? Sige po, magpakarga po.
Oh no!
United States President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill released their 2022 federal income tax returns. The same with Vice President Kamala Harris and her husband. Arlene Campo reports.
President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill filed their income tax return jointly. They reported federal adjusted gross income of $579,514. They paid $169,820 in combined federal, Delaware, and Virginia income taxes. The first couple's 2022 effective federal income tax rate is 23.8%. The Bidens also reported contributions of $20,180 to 20 different charities, the largest of which was $5,000 to the Beau Biden Foundation, a charity aimed at protecting children from abuse. Meanwhile, the Vice President and the Second Gentleman also released their 2022 federal and state income tax return. The Harrises reported federal adjusted gross income of $456,918. They paid $93,570 in federal income tax with a tax rate of 20.5%. They contributed $23,000 to charity in 2022. With this release, President Biden has shared a total of 25 years of tax returns with the American public, while the Vice President has published 19 years of tax returns. In Washington, D.C., Arlene Campo for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Former U.S. President Bill Clinton has said his decision to become involved in the Northern Ireland peace process was a leap of faith. Clinton was speaking at an event in Belfast for the 25th anniversary of the bilateral agreement signed during his term. Joining him on the panel was Sir Tony Blair and former Taoiseach Bertie Ahern. The three-day Agreement 25 conference at Queen's University Belfast is hosting many global figures, including Clinton and wife Hillary. Also in attendance was former U.S. Senator George Mitchell, who called on political parties in Northern Ireland to compromise to keep the peace and resolve the Stormont impasse. Mitchell called on the people of Northern Ireland to or not to give up on their belief the future could be better. The former U.S. Secretary of State, who is Chancellor of Queen's University, said the credit for peace ultimately went to the brave people of Northern Ireland who took the risk for the sake of unity. In Canada, a plan to give Toronto's Ontario Place a major makeover raised questions. Critics say some of the new features only cater to the rich. Yolanda Aspiras tells us more.
If you've been to downtown Toronto, you must have seen Ontario Place, an eye-catching piece of architecture which features a huge half-globe sitting by the waterfront, famous as a venue for summer activities, live music, and festivals. This week, the province of Ontario has announced major renovations to this 52-year-old tourist attraction, and which some consider a heritage place. Premier Doug Ford announced Tuesday that this government-owned attraction will now feature more all-year-round activities, concerts, and events. In addition, Ontario Place will now be the new home of the Ontario Science Centre. A new amphitheatre will also be built to hold concerts all year long, not just during the summer. The province also pledged to creating more green space within Ontario Place. According to the announcement, moving the Ontario Science Centre will free up space to create more housing, which has called to question other reasons for this redevelopment, especially that a new billion-dollar Ontario line is currently being built to bring people directly to the current location of the Ontario Science Centre. Liberals also question the additional features of the Ontario Place, such as a spa, wave pool, and restaurants, services that only wealthier people can afford. Reporting from Toronto, Canada, Yolanda Aspiras for Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
A third of Canada's public service workers reported for picket line duty Wednesday morning instead of going to work. They are on strike demanding cost of living raises and more flexibility to work from home. More than 155,000 workers walked off the job, the largest such strike in Canada since 1991. The government says both sides are still negotiating, but the union says they are far apart on reaching an agreement. The workers want a 13.5% increase over 3 years. The dispute is expected to slow or entirely shut down some federal services. That includes the processing of immigration and passport applications. As well, 35,000 workers with the Canada Revenue Agency are off the job, meaning tax season could be brought to a standstill. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says while he supports the workers' right to strike, he warns Canadians will lose patience if it drags on. Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel has been given a second 5-year term. The country's National Assembly voted Wednesday to keep him on. There were no surprises. The parliamentary vote is a rubber stamp. Diaz-Canel was the sole candidate. Cuba does not allow any political opposition. Diaz-Canel became Cuba's first civilian president in nearly 60 years, taking over from Raul Castro in 2018. His first term saw the worst economic crisis in 3 decades. His response to anti-government protests has been widely criticized. Latest data from United Nations says India will surpass China as the most populated country. UN projects India's population will reach 1.43 billion by mid-2023. India then will have about 2.9 million people more than China. UN says India's 254 million people between ages 15 and 24 is also the largest number in the world. Experts believe India's young citizenry could drive the country's economic growth for years to come. Yet a problem may arise if they are not currently employed. Meanwhile, the situation is different in China. Latest demographic records say China is struggling with aging residents and stagnant population growth. The changes sparked expectations that may pave the way for India to become an economic and global heavyweight. The family of Tyre Nichols filed a federal lawsuit of $500 million against the Memphis Police Department. Nichols, age 29, was repeatedly punched and kicked by Memphis police officers on January 7. Nichols' death also sparked protests across the United States about police brutality. The lawsuit claims that the reasons for stopping Nichols while driving have never been substantiated. After an investigation, 5 police officers were fired. Criminal charges were also filed against the officers.
It is our mission to make it financially unsustainable for these police oppression units to unjustly kill black people in the future.
2 teen brothers are charged with killings that claimed 4 lives and injured 32 people in Alabama. Alabama police identified the teen suspects as 17-year-old Tyreek McCullough and 16-year-old Travis McCullough. 20-year-old Wilson Lamar Hill was also arrested on Wednesday. Each of them is being charged with 4 counts of reckless murder. Data shows Alabama has a recorded 163 mass shooting this year, a big number of 56 incidents, combining the year 2013 to 2019. 2 Texas cheerleaders were shot in a grocery store parking lot after entering the wrong car. This is the latest in a spate of shootings in the United States. From our Texas Bureau, here's Jane Kathleen Gregorio with the report.
Heather Roth says she entered into what she believed was her vehicle and opened the door. She found Pedro Tello Rodriguez sitting inside. Upon realizing her mistake, she exited the car. Rodriguez, however, pulled out a gun and opened fire on the cheerleaders. One cheerleader, Peyton Washington, sustained serious injuries and was transported to hospital. Rodriguez was arrested and is charged with deadly conduct. In recent days, a black teenager was shot in Missouri after ringing the wrong doorbell. In New York State, a young woman was shot after showing up at an incorrect address. In Corpus Christi, Texas, Jane Kathleen Gregorio from Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
A Chinese acrobat has fallen to her death during an aerial performance. The woman, surnamed Sun, fell to the stage while performing a mid-air routine with her husband in a village near the city of Soju. She was taken to hospital but died from her injuries. Footage of the incident showed the couple being pulled high into the air by a crane. As they swung in mid-air, the woman wrapped her arms around her husband's head and hung off him during a transition act. But she lost her grip and plunged to the hard stage amid screams from the crowd. Her husband attempted to catch her with his legs but failed. An investigation by authorities had ruled the tragedy was an accident. The show was hosted by a local farm business owner who contracted the Anhui Ayaxi Performing Arts Media Company to run the performance. The company has reached an agreement on compensation with the family of the acrobat and will be punished according to regulations. 15 Tunisian migrants are missing after their boats sank in the Mediterranean Sea during an attempt to reach Europe. Tunisian authorities say the country's Coast Guard is searching for the waters for survivors. Fishermen pulled for people from the sea when the vessel sank Monday night. A search for the other 15 continues. The Tunisian coastline is less than 150 kilometers from the Italian island of Lampedusa, making it a favorite stepping stone for migrants attempting the perilous journey. Last week, 32 people fleeing sub-Saharan Africa also drowned while attempting a similar trip. The number of departures has sharply risen after Tunisia's president claimed in February that illegal immigration is a demographic threat to his country. French President Emmanuel Macron says it is normal that anger is expressed. He says he understands the public's anger toward his unpopular pension reform, but he vows he will continue to move forward with his decision. Macron argues raising the state pension age from 62 to 64 is essential to prevent the system from collapsing. Yet the opposition says the government is prioritizing businesses. Alain Robert, also known as the French Spider-Man, joins the protests. He climbed the 38-story Alto Tower without a harness to strike. He insists raising the retirement age is not good. He says he has an 8-year-old kid and he has lots of expenses. The United Kingdom's inflation rate for March held above 10%, the highest in Western Europe. This marks the fourth consecutive month that the UK inflation rate has remained in the double digits. This may be due to factors including supply chain disruption, higher energy prices, and increased demand. The British economy is still recovering from the effects of the pandemic. This impacts consumer purchasing power so much that the Bank of England is considering interest rate adjustments to curb inflation in the coming months. United Nations says 67 million children were completely or partially deprived of routine vaccinations between 2019 and 2021 due to COVID lockdowns. A UNICEF report says 48 million children missed out on routine vaccinations entirely. The report's editor-in-chief, Brian Keeley, believes any decline in vaccination rates is worrying. He says hard-earned gains in routine childhood immunization have been eroded. United Nations echoes Keeley's statement, saying there could be potential polio and measles outbreaks. UNICEF is now urging governments to accelerate vaccination efforts for those who missed their shots. Lead is described as a cumulative toxicant affecting multiple body systems. It is particularly harmful to young children. The United States Environmental Protection Agency releases an online guide providing resources to prevent heavy metal exposures in kids. Jeff Sanidad has more.
Children and those who are pregnant are especially vulnerable to the health risk posed by exposure to heavy metals in certain products. This exposure, more often than not, leads to long-term health risk. The Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, recently published an online guide to help stop heavy metal exposures, especially in children. The EPA says some cultural products can contain heavy metals such as lead, mercury, arsenic, and cadmium. This includes cosmetics, religious powders, spices, traditional medicine, and cookware. The EPA warns that exposure to contaminants such as lead can cause reduced IQ, learning difficulties, and behavior issues like hyperactivity and inability to pay attention. These effects may not be immediately visible because they manifest later in life. The Heavy Metals in Cultural Products online resources identifies outreach materials designed to teach the public about how to identify and reduce exposure from these hazardous products. For more information, visit epa.gov. Jeff Sanidad, Washington, D.C., Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
TikTok announced it will change its policy to combat climate misinformation. This is to drive sustainability awareness, as it believes it has a significant role to play in empowering informed climate discussion in the platform. Meanwhile, a UK media outlet says TikTok has toughened its stance on harmful content. This was after British regulators fined the tech company with $15.9 million for not removing minor users under the age of 13. The policy change will take effect tomorrow to mark Earth Day. This just in, Elon Musk's $3 billion Starship has blown up on its first test launch shortly after takeoff. The massive rocket gathered speed, but then it started to spin before exploding after 4 minutes. Initial reports say the booster and cruise vessel were unable to separate properly after takeoff. Coming right up, Tesla's net income falls at 24%. A startup company has released an AI voice cloning tool. And Bruno Mars to perform in Philippine Arena on June 24. Catch the latest on business, sports, and entertainment when Mata ng Agila International returns.
Yun o! Bato! Wow!
Tama na, may nanalo na. Uwi na. Cajun Seafood!
Tesla reported a drop in first quarter earnings as price cuts boosted demand but hit profit margins. Profits came in at $2.5 billion, down 24% from the year before. Faced with more EV competition from other automakers, Tesla has undertaken a series of price cuts in 2023, most recently over the last 24 hours on some models in the United States. The company said its profit margins had been trimmed at a manageable rate. It pointed to a unique opportunity for Tesla while signaling more price cuts ahead. Musk described the price cuts as related to macroeconomic factors, saying the intention was to sell more autos even at lower profit margins. But as a result of the price cuts, Tesla's operating margin fell to 11.4% from 16% in the prior quarter. Starbucks is introducing a new set of NFTs as part of its Odyssey Rewards program.
With Starbucks Odyssey, we've launched a new experience, surrounded by a digital community where members can come together, interact, and share their love of coffee. The experience allows members to play a series of interactive activities called Journeys to earn collectible Journey stamps and Odyssey points that will open access to new benefits and immersive coffee experiences that they cannot get anywhere else.
The new collection features unique digital souvenirs that highlight the brand, giving users a chance to own a piece of the company's history. It aims to offer customers an access to a range of unique rewards that take advantage of NFTs and blockchain technology. The rewards will include a virtual coffee preparation class and a donation to Feeding America, among others. Starbucks Odyssey was first released in December as a closed beta test, and the upcoming release indicates that the app may soon be available to the public. With the rapid spread of artificial intelligence, or AI, in the world of technology, here's another new capability: voice cloning. AI can now mimic your voice. It can mimic your favorite podcast host, a media professional, and even content creators. Podcastle, a startup company, released Revoice, an AI-powered voice cloning tool targeted at producers that wish to create audio production, such as podcasts, audiobooks, or voiceovers. The reason? So AI voice would sound more human, not robotic. Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin is making an NFL comeback. Earlier today, the Buffalo Bills front office announced that the safety was cleared for football activity.
Wonderful trainers here who treat me with the care of their children. And that tender love and care just gives me confidence, faith, strength, just all the wonderful things, just to keep going in this journey that I've been on so far. With that being said, also, I would like to just say how thankful I am to have wonderful coaches and teammates here in Buffalo that just allow me to grow mentally, physically, spiritually each and every day. So many different aspects. I learned so many different things from my coaches here, my teammates here, the vets here. I'm always learning here, and that's a wonderful environment to be in and to be around. With that being said, over these last few months, I've been on a journey, and I've seen, some of the top professionals across the country, and their answers to me were pretty much all the same. They were the same.
Experts have attributed his collapse to commotio cordis, a rare cause of cardiac arrest. Commotio cordis occurs when the solar plexus is struck during a certain point of the heartbeat's cadence. This is also the leading cause of death in youth athletes across all sports. Hamlin's foundation, Chasing M, will conduct CPR training and efforts to provide defibrillators to youth sports organizations. Despite this experience with football, Hamlin says, "I've been beating statistics my whole life, so I like my chances here." In the 2023 NBA playoffs, the Memphis Grizzlies and Milwaukee Bucks got Game 2 wins without their primary stars, tying their series each at 1-1. The Memphis Grizzlies evened out the series with a win over Los Angeles Lakers 103-93 as they won without star Ja Morant. Xavier Tillman recorded a playoffs high with 22 points and 13 rebounds. Grizzlies' Ja Morant didn't play for Game 2 due to right-hand soreness. The Milwaukee Bucks stomped the Miami Heat with a score of 138-122. Jrue Holiday carries the Bucks with 24 points and 11 assists. Milwaukee star Giannis Antetokounmpo was sidelined for Game 2 due to a lower back injury. Meanwhile, the Denver Nuggets take the win with an intense back and forth over the Minnesota Timberwolves 122-113. Jamal Murray explodes for 40 points to close out the game. Game 3 of the NBA playoffs will begin tomorrow as it will shift to the opposing team's home court. Let's make some noises this June 24 as Grammy Award-winning artist Bruno Mars performs live at the Philippine Arena. Agila for the details.
Good news for fans as international artist Bruno Mars will be back for his concert at the world's largest indoor arena, the Philippine Arena. Pre-sale tickets will be available on April 27, while general sales are on April 28. This will be Bruno's fourth concert in the country. He performed in 2014 as part of his Moonshine Jungle Tour and twice in 2018 as part of the 24K Magic World Tour. Bruno Mars is known for his hit songs 24K Magic, Just the Way You Are, When I Was Your Man, Talking to the Moon, Uptown Funk, and more. The Philippine Arena continues to host big names in the entertainment and music industry. In the past month, Korean groups perform in the venues such as Blackpink, 17, and British singer Harry Styles. Agila for Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Sad news, K-pop group Astro's Moonbin has died at the age of 25. News sources say Moonbin was found dead in his house in Seoul's Gangnam-gu in the late evening of Wednesday. Police are still investigating the cause of his death. Family members, friends, Astro members, and staff were deeply saddened by his passing. Fantagio Music released a statement asking fans to respect the family's privacy. In the northern part of Luzon lies the municipality of Bugay in Cagayan Province. Records from the Central Luzon State University show Bugay is the crab capital of the Philippines. According to Mayor of Bugay, Lloyd Antiporda, Bugay produces high-value fishery products. He adds that the town has 8,000 hectares of fish pond to support the government's food security programs. Despite Bugay's property, it is still affected by the importation of other fish products.
Yes, definitely we are affected because when we import fish, it would seem that mainly when we import fish, number one, the price of fishery products will have to go down, because there are a lot of supplies coming from other areas.
Antiporda asserts that the national government strengthens the aquaculture industry in the Philippines.
I strongly recommend that the national government would help strengthen inland fishing activities like the propagation of fish cages in the rivers, in the lakes, and the development of our fish ponds for aquaculture industry.
To de-stress this Thursday night, here's a quote from American author David Allen. Much of the stress that people feel doesn't come from having to do or having too much to do. It comes from not finishing what they have started. So let us always remind ourselves to finish what we have started. And that's a wrap for tonight's news. Catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I am Nina Richie Alago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.